Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Broward Spirit Society. We're still closed to the public. We're still following the guidelines from the health department and also Broward County. So we hope to see everybody here pretty soon. We miss, everybody being here close to us. But we will do our meeting, our study together tonight, starting with a prayer. I would like to invite you to join me on this prayer if you feel like closing your eyes or just breathe in and try to get as much comfortable that you can. Get in connection with God, our Creator, with Jesus Christ, our Master and our brother. Get in connection with our mentors and the mentors of this center. Asking God to provide us with light, to inspire us, to open our hearts, inviting the light and optimism to our homes, to our hearts and our lives. And we ask you that during this half an hour we can learn a little more about Jesus' gospel and words and teachings, and help us to get better and stronger to go through this day by day, and being right now in symphony with the mentors of this house, of this center. We ask their permission to start our meeting. So be it. Welcome one more time. We're starting our study tonight remembering a great icon of Spiritism, Chico Xavier. Perhaps he's a little known yet in the US, but he's a great figure in the Spiritism world scene, especially in Brazil. And how we miss him, how we miss people like him in this world in times like this. He was very well described on a documentary called When I Remember Chico. It's a documentary that I recommend if you have some time. It's wonderful. It's on YouTube and they have subtitles in English, so everybody's going to be able to enjoy. And he was on this documentary. It's done by friends and people that are very close to him and work with him throughout his legacy. And he's very well described when they synthesize in one sentence what his person, his energy was. And they said that the people looked for Chico Xavier because they missed Jesus. It's that way we understand more or less how sweet, how powerful, and kind he was and his energy was. So people would look for him, and because they missed that sense of hope and kind that Jesus once brought to us in this world. And we miss more people like him, especially during this time that we are living right now. So we start with Chico. In 1971, in a historical moment at the Brazilian television, they had a program called Pinga Fogo, which was a live program where the guest of the night, in this case Chico, they got some questions made to them, and by phone or by the panel that was on that program that night. Usually the program was during about like the length was an hour and a half or 2 hours. And on that specific night, it stayed as long as 4 hours. That how much successful his broadcast was. Everybody was so interested on that night and to learn a little more about the Spiritism. Of course, he will get some criticism and then people that will ask questions to kind of embarrass him and put him on a place that it was hard for him to answer, but with such a dignity and light and kindness, he was more and more gaining the trust of that audience. And after 4 hours, everybody once more fell in love with Chico. In that night, he was telling a story about one occasion when he was aboard of an airplane that flight experienced some strong turbulences. And the movements, the whole thing was so strong and people start getting so scared and they start panicking, shouting out for help. And Chico, in all the midst of terror, began to shout out as well. And he was so funny. Even though he was telling a tragic, like a very hard moment, he was still funny. And he was telling about this moment where he was also shouting out for God and please help me, Lord, have mercy of my life. He mentioned there was a priest, a Catholic priest next to him, and he was following his prayer as well. He was really desperate, when he had that moment, he realized he was facing death. And one moment, he saw Emmanuel, his mentor, coming in the airplane. Of course, nobody else saw it but Chico. And Emmanuel comes to him and said, hi, I heard you were crying, I heard you were shouting, so what's going on? And Chico was desperate. He's like, can you see around us? We're in danger of dying right now. And Emmanuel was like, Chico, a lot of people are in danger of dying right now. So you gotta take this opportunity to, testify your faith. Not only that, you should at least trying to contain yourself. And he's like, but Emmanuel, are we in danger of dying? He's like, yes. He's like, well, but if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna be, shout out. I cannot contain myself. I'm just a human being. He's like, well, at least die politely. And do not further afflict those who are by your side. Which Chico understood that the lesson at that moment was, it could, for us, sound a little harsh, but it was a way to say, that's the moment when you're in danger, when you're in situations like this, is when we just truly testify our faith. And we show our kindness when we contain our desperation and try not to panic too much, try not to be too loud in order to respect the others around us, in order to not make them feel even worse than they are feeling at this moment. So how many of us, when we got to a plane, we are so distracted, so busy, sometimes too excited about the trip or so tired of that trip, coming back home, we don't even pay attention to the instructions that they give it to us before any and all takeoffs. They're always showing us, in case of emergencies, the exits and the way to proceed in times of emergencies. But we're trying to find out what is the reason why we don't pay attention to that anymore. Is it maybe because we think we already know everything? Or maybe we don't believe that one day we will need it. We just ignore that. But we bring that to our lives. Sometimes in our lives we receive instructions constantly. How to be prepared and strength for difficult or emergency moments, just like turbulence on an airplane. but yet we got caught by surprise. And we ask the same questions. Is that because we think that we know all? We don't feel like paying attention to the instructions or to lections anymore because maybe we know all? Or it's maybe because we don't think that one day we're going to need it. We just go day by day living at the moment, and we don't realize that we might need to be prepared for moments of dangers and emergency, and moments where we need to train our brain, train ourselves how to proceed in cases like that. How many books, lectures, how many workshops, masses, meditations, therapies, and yet we are caught by surprise by those turbulences of life. We begin to looking for meaning in everything around us. It feels like we are not part of this reality or the life in general. We are so lost. And in times like this, I believe not everybody, but a lot of us heard a lot of people asking, why is this happening, or what's happening in the world? If we, ourselves are not asking the same questions. And we forget everything that we've been learning and reading and sometimes teaching even, and we get caught by surprise. And do you realize that in times like this, in times of difficulties and crisis, we can see the true characters in people, the true colors of the people? Especially the more they have the power to do more, to help more, to influence more we can see their true characters. If they're very kind and worry about the others, or they're very selfish and care about themselves only. And in times like this, however, we can bring the light to us as well. In times like this, we demonstrate or we discover ourselves, our many truths about us, about how we live and how we understand the world in general. We learn how much we care about stuff, how much we care about the others, or how much we care about ourselves. So in times like this, it's very important for us to understand ourselves, bring the light to us so we can learn more about ourselves. The virtual world serves like a window, or the internet. It's a big, big window, a large window, that displays sometimes the good, sometimes the bad, sometimes hopeful and sometimes shameful mental process of mankind. Unfortunately, it's like a platform that gives us and anybody else a way, a window, a display that they can show whatever they want, whatever they choose to. And a lot of people, they will say anything because they are covered by a screen. They feel like they can say anything because they're not looking into somebody else's eyes. And most of those cases, they wouldn't repeat if they had the person in front of them. So that's very dangerous. We realize that there's a lot of things on the internet, a lot of things on those virtual worlds that showcase a lot of things that in cases it's very useful, very positive, very good information for the population. But unfortunately, it's also used as an instrument of confusion and disinformation. So we need to be very careful in times like this, where we are searching everywhere, when we are so thirsty for information, so thirsty for answers, that we are consuming, we are observing anything that come across us. So it's very important that we need to take a step back, breathe, and start looking more careful what we are reading, what we are talking about, what we are criticizing, what we are supporting or not. And what should be our position then, here and now? What should we are doing at this moment? Maybe we should be taking our little notebook, like a little black notebook called like the Final Judgment book. And we start like writing down names of each one along with the good things we think they're doing. Or maybe we have a list with the names of the persons we think they're not doing very good. They're mad, they are crazy. And start making lists and judging people. Do we really think that's our what is expected of us in moments like this? Being like some kind of police of somebody else's behavior. Do we really think that's our position right now to do it? Really? What we should be doing now, because now is the time. Now it's when we are in emergency. We are on the plane that's having some turbulences, and we should, at this moment, rethink things on our lives and look to ourselves and ask ourselves a lot of questions to bring us to a good way to do better further and acting better now as well. Now is the time to reflect on ourselves, not to be pushing, not to be pointing fingers, not to be judging other people, not to be see who is doing what, but actually looking to ourselves. Know thyself, said Socrates so many years ago. So that's the only way we can get better. If we keep denial that we have anything that needs to be changed on us, on our behavior, on our thinking, that will be impossible to get better and evolve. I remember having a conversation with my daughter that the only way we can evolve, we can get better, is when we are truth to ourselves. When we accept what we have, the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, so we can have a plan to get better, to change things that needs to be changed, to improve what needs to be improved. And everything that's already right and it's already positive on us, we can reinforce it. So that's so important for us to really know ourselves. And it's time for us to, on this analysis, to focus on us so we can get better mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So it's time for us to really work on ourselves. We need to understand how prepared or unprepared we are in times like this, how our faith is right now. It's time for the check and balances, to look deep in us and see, how is this whole thing affecting me? How is this lockdown, being home by myself or with my family, it's being a challenge? And what can I do to make this easier? How can I do to make this a good moment to learn how to respect, to be patient, etc. So it's a beautiful time for us to evolve as a human being and individually evolve. And as Emmanuel said, it's the time for us to give testimony of our faith, just like he was telling Chico that night. And it's the time for us to really testify how faithful we are to all the things that we've been learning throughout our lives. And it's time for us also to be respectful with others. We have so many different people reacting differently throughout these times. There are a lot of people in pain. There are a lot of people panicking right now. And there's a lot of people that are taking this so lightly, like it's nothing going on. So we need to find the balance and the right, that we think it's the right thing, the right way to do it, without disturbing or worsening somebody else's life or somebody else's mood or expectations. So it's very important that we are responsible on our action, words, because those are very, very strong. Now is the time to withdraw as much as possible from the materialistic world. It's time for us to devote a certain amount of time to ourselves to improve us, to improve, like we were saying, doing this analysis and trying to get better and better. We hear a lot from the spiritual doctors about the reading therapy. They recommend very often to those who come looking for help with our treatments and our spiritual surgeries and healings in this center. And they talk about this reading therapy, how important those moments when you take a book that's a healthy book, not too heavy, not something very heavy on that specific therapy, but a good book, especially from a library like a spiritual center, a library, and take sometimes daily, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to just read. Leave everything else on the side, all the worries, all the life and the work and the family, all the problems outside, and just take those minutes to read and do some kind of mental hygiene when we just read and try to balance our energies, our brain, our mind. Those moments will bring some kind of discipline to our lives as well. And this moment is so important. It's when we somehow open ourselves to have those that love us or those that wants to get close to us be more susceptible to get close to be with us and help us. So we open that window, we open that energy to the good, the positive. The same way that if we have everyday moments when we are fighting, we are reading something very toxic, or those are also windows to those that have that same vibration, that same energy to get close to us. So that's important also on this reading therapies, on these books, on this time that we take to the healthy reading or the healthy information, healthy, even meditation. It's good for us to start opening for those who wants to help us, inspire us. And that will benefit our spirit, mind, and body with these moments. It's also time to get away a little bit from the social media, at least for a few hours a day, and get the time to yourself. And it's in 2020, it's so hard to say to people to get away from social media, because unfortunately social media became the family, the way that people connect, unfortunately. Of course, now it's different that we are on this pandemic situation and social distance. It's so important that social media is a way to connect. But in general, we spend so much time online. We spend so much time on the phone. We spend so much time on a computer, and we forget to just simply talk, look to people's face at dinner table or at work or on a party, and just connect with a person, not with a phone, not with a profile on a social media platform. So it's very important times like this, we remind ourselves how important it is to make that connection with the person itself or with ourselves as well. And it's time, my brothers and sisters, to use our common sense. It's so important in times like this, when we receive so much information from so many different sources. It's so important to use common sense, filter, because everybody has an opinion, everybody has a way to say something, has an opinion, not necessarily a right one. And it's so important not to lose that sense of filter. We should maybe look for a respected source, a place that we know we can have information that we need to be safe, that we need in times like this to get some guidelines, and go to that source and get some information, and leave everything else that's pure opinion and toxic points to one side, because this is becoming overwhelming for a lot of people. We don't know who or what to believe anymore. So it's so important just to, once a day, go to that source, or for those that it's so anxious, twice a day. So we go there on that specific source, reading source, or on the internet. We read about the news, we get the updates that we need to be safe, and then we disconnect from that environment, toxic environment, where everybody has an opinion. We have the WhatsApp, where we have family members and uncles and aunts being sometimes expressing their opinions, and they're more certain than the scientist on most of the information. So we know that we need to filter everything, including our words, our points. We are entitled to have a point of view, but we need to be very careful what we say and what we spread, the news that we are spreading around. And above all of that, it's time to get in tune with God. It's time to get in tune with the spiritual world. It's time to get in tune with the superior world. Understand and realize that we are part of a large family called humanity. We are all a big family, and that we will only be happy, truly fulfilled, when there's no one in pain or suffering. We like to use the example of the mother's love. For the people that don't have kids yet, you can imagine a creature, somebody that you really, really love. But we are talking about mother's love in this case. You can do anything, for little thing for our kids. You don't need to give a mother anything for Christmas, for example. But somebody comes and give our kid one little thing. It makes us so happy, because we truly love that creature, that child, so much that her happiness is our happiness. It's my happiness. Her success, it's mine. But her pain, it's mine too. So we learn that when we truly love somebody, we can be happy if they're suffering. I have only one child, but imagine a mother that have more than one, that have 5, 10. You can have 5 kids, 4 healthy kids, and 1 at the hospital. Only 1. But you still cannot be happy. You always gonna have that feeling that there's somebody, your kid, somebody that you truly love, it's in pain. You can have 10 kids, 9 kids doing great, and 1 kid homeless or addicted to drugs, and that person, that mother, will never be truly happy, because they're one person, one love that's still suffering. And one day, us as humanity, us as a family, a big family on this world, we will love each other just like a mother loves her child. And when it's one of us still suffering, we all gonna suffer. And when we all are happy, we will be happy as well. And that's why we will learn that then, when we got to that point, we learned that we are in a different level of world. We are transitioning right now. We still have people that enjoy life, and they could care less if there's a kid that's starving, there's somebody at the hospital, there's homeless in the cold, they're still happy, they still enjoy life. But there's a point that we will reach a point that we will love each other so much that we will work to get everybody at the same happiness, at the same place that we are, so we all can be happy. And that's our goal. There is so many tragedies, sadness that we witness in the world, a lot of sadness. There were wars, bloody children being removed from buildings that were bombed. Desperate people trying to flee the war in improvised boats and drowning. Brothers that faced the Ebola pandemic, there were many dying. We have so many tragedies in Brazil and Haiti, that earthquake 10 years ago, and we still see people living on tents on a yard. So we have witnessed a lot of things that touched our hearts. Those things touched our hearts back then. But for some reason, they faded away. They got forgotten by us. Maybe it's because they were far away from us. There were like a distance between us and that reality. It was not part of our world. But now we are in it. We all are. Now this pandemic is knocking our doors, our families, our co-workers, our neighbors. We are all in this together. And we need to we can't ignore anymore. We need to wake up, and it's time to come forward. It's time for us to understand that we are brothers and sisters, and we depend on each other to be better. Because if one person is selfish enough, and that person cannot follow instructions and guidelines because her free will, other people can be infected, other people can be sick, and this will never end. We must understand that we are in this together. And then, maybe then, when we realize that we are all humans and we are all brothers and sisters, we will start getting a little better on our compassion and understand that we can do much better than we are doing, that we have been doing so far. Now is the time to help each other, to show the best that we have within us. Now is the time. Gandhi says, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." We must be that change. We hope to see a better place for our kids, for the future generations. We must be that better place right now, the better person. We must start doing this right now. It's step by step. Things are not going to change overnight. People don't change overnight, but we must make the commitment to ourselves to do a little better every day, to care a little more every day. There's so many people right now suffering, not only in America, but around the world. There are a lot of people that have been suffering for so many years, for so many centuries, for so many generations. It's time for us to understand and embrace that truth and evolve for a better place, for a better world, a better community. This turbulence will pass. Everything that we are living right now will pass. We brought tonight words of Emmanuel that says, "Think of God, take refuge in God, wait for God and trust in God, because even when you think you are alone, in the midst of countless tribulations, God is with us, and with God we will overcome. And that's how we should feel right now. We will overcome. This is not the end. This is not going to end us. This is not going to end the good in the people. We will get better. We hope to live this experience, this flight, better than we entered. We should live better than we entered those days. We should get on the other side of this pandemic better persons, to understand the pain, to understand the magnitude of society. All of us, we are all connected. We are all together. Hope that we learn to love, to respect each other without distinction, working so that our faith and hope are stronger than ever. Faith and hope in the goodness in the heart of the mankind. We must believe that everybody is good, had that goodness, had that seed of God in their hearts. Because God is good, and His goodness is abundant and infinite. And He's waiting for us. Jesus is waiting for us to wake up, start working together for a better place, for us to live and our future generations. May Jesus bless us all. Thank you very much for your attention for those minutes together. We're gonna continue with our reminders for tonight. We still have the Spirit's Book, 8 o'clock on Wednesdays, starting on the May 20th with Rafael Costa. We have the meeting online for the meditation every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. It's a beautiful work we've been still doing online. And we also have in the Realms of Mediumship study group on Tuesdays at 8 o'clock, online only. We're still adjusting to the new normal that we're living on our society right now. And before we do our prayer to end our meeting, I would like to bring to everybody's attention something that I heard today on the news that's so troubling. I heard that the hotline, the suicide hotline phone calls had increased 1,000% since the COVID-19 pandemic started. This is so hard that we have so many people struggling, including myself, with anxiety and depression for so many years. And during this time, there's so many people struggling with this whole situation. It's weighing in a lot of people. So check on yourself every morning. Make sure you're okay. Reach out for help if you need. And if you're okay and you're in the situation, the position to help somebody, give somebody a call. Reach out. Especially people that live by themselves, that are alone on this whole quarantine. So it's very important that we check on, our mental health and make sure everybody is okay throughout those days. And for us to end it, I would like one more time to welcome you, to ask you to join me on a prayer. I'd like to invite you to elevate your thoughts to God and ask Jesus Christ, our mentor, and all the messengers of light that work under him, that can inspire all the governments, all the persons that are in charge of so many lives throughout their decisions every day. That the light of Jesus and all the good mentors can reach out for those hearts and minds. Ask to the engineers and doctors from the astral world to inspire those scientists and doctors that are working right now to find a cure or vaccine for this virus. And ask for everybody right now to vibrate positive energies, that we can all together can create a wonderful light that can reflect from our Jesus Christ's heart like a big sun and brings light to all the hospitals. All these people that have been working so hard to care for the people that need so much help. Bring to our homes strength for our faith. And we ask you, Jesus Christ, to help us every day to be a better person, to evolve, and help us, Jesus, to, throughout our words, actions, and smiles, bring a little peace, a little good to somebody else's life. Thank you very much for this opportunity, for this life, for this body that gives us the opportunity to live right now. Thank you very much for everything. So be it. Thank you all. Have a good night. Thank you.